Red Dead Redemption still holds a special place in my heart, and I'm here for one reason and one reason only: to get Arthur a maximum mustache! But today you will also see me break the game, terrorize the guilty and anyone who gets in my way, and I did it without firing a single shot. I loaded up an old save for fun and found myself in Rhodes, where I would soon become the people's champion.
Out of the damn way!
But before I embarked on my first quest to help the helpless, some pesky Lemoyne Raiders accosted me in town.
Hey, don't I know?
You'll have to ask me nicer than that.
Enough of this!
It was at this moment I realised that I was currently a deputy in Rhodes, and tomahawks, throwing knives or any weapons were off limits. But that didn't mean I was about to back down from these bullies. Like a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, in they came one at a time, until they didn't. For a moment I felt like Captain America and was tempted to tell these fools that I could do this all day.
You ain't gonna win this!
Except I couldn't. Well, I might not have been able to draw my weapons, but there were other ways to put down these pests.
Yeah.
You best run! Let the old turd go! Ain't worth it no...
Unfortunately for him, Dennis absolutely thought he was worth it. I took it upon myself to safeguard this town however it need be done, and shortly thereafter came across a poor man who was scared to death when I approached him.
You need me to move?
Move?
Am I sitting in the wrong place?
Excuse me?
Sadly, I am allergic to cutscenes and play video games in the manner of the old Thanos meme, where I get to the final boss who says, "You took everything from me!" And I reply, "I don't even know who you are." Fortunately, Red Dead accommodates the idiots like myself.
Were you looking for that fella's wagon? I heard him say they was taking it to McComb's Inn.
Good enough for me, and it turned out we'd been speaking to a doctor who'd been robbed of all his equipment, leaving him penniless and traumatized. McComb's End, a sinister swamp shrouded in a misty cloud of methane. I decided to ask for the wagon back nicely, but when the guns were pointed in my face, it seemed I needed fresh tactics. Fortunately, stealth is one of my stronger suits, and making it to the wagon undetected was a piece of cake.
You ain't one of us! Get gone!
While many would question my decision to make it through the day without guns, the tomahawk was more than capable of dealing with a bunch of swamp-dwelling thieves. I had to stay on the move to make this madness work in my favor. Still 2 enemies left. The only way to win this was to lure them close. Or... the final opponent would then be terrified by a war cry that only a man of culture would use when charging into battle. The doctor's wagon was secure, and it was only a short ride back to Rhodes. Little did I realise the horrors lying in wait. It began with a couple of bandits who were determined to stop me, so I engaged ramming speed. A lucky shot, perhaps. So, same tactics, bulldoze into my enemies. Didn't quite work out as I'd hoped, but no more messing around. I whipped out Deadeye, where slow motion engages and you simply cannot miss. Unless you're me. Couldn't possibly fail the mission now, as my enemies were dead, so I looted their bodies, retrieved my tomahawks, and... the law were alerted to me trying to protect their town, apparently. Okay, checkpoint took me back to after I dealt with the baddies. I purchased a lovely mask that smelled like rotten skin. Then I said hello to another driver. You would think I couldn't fail from doing that, and you'd be wrong. It was beginning to feel as if the devs made this vehicle by playing Jenga with the parts, but I eventually made it back to town, where I ran into some horses that wouldn't give way, and if you don't give way... thank goodness everyone seemed fine, so now we could... The game had had enough of me at this point, and my new checkpoint was almost right in front of our quest giver, who was delighted to have his volatile wagon returned and told me, well, I don't know what he told me because I went to check on dinner, but I'm sure he was grateful. Afterwards, myself and the town folk celebrated my fooling around. You know, rolling on the floor, chasing each other for fun, hiding in plants, the usual sort of thing. At the end of the day, I looked in the mirror and I liked what I saw.
You're getting old, you sour-faced idiot.
The next morning, our celebrations were still in full swing, but to help rid the town of their problems, I had to tend to those most in need, and who could be more in need than the local drunks on the benches?
You okay?
Do I look okay?
No.
Old man Compson had lost his house and asked me to get his items of sentimental value, but now I had accepted the quest, I wanted to know if I could still complete it if our quest giver had an accident. Now, there were two reasons for this. One was morbid curiosity, and the other was that I knew something Arthur didn't, but we'll get to that. A trampled and deceased Mr. Compson was then looted, and I set off for his repossessed house to collect his things. Upon arrival to his property, it smelled like someone had smeared the walls in skunk juice, but after perusing a bunch of pointless junk, I located his watch, still in mint condition. But with the gun and ledger nowhere to be found, the picture provided me with the answer I needed, which is when the squatters rocked up.
What you doing here?
At least I'd now located Compson's pistol.
Come on, Dan!
Where you going? Son of a bitch!
I then did what anyone else would do and stacked the villains on top of the trapdoor to see how the game would handle it for the ensuing cinematic. A little disappointing. Even more disappointing was my descent into the cellar, where Arthur discovered that the ledger would prove Mr. Compson a dirty slaver. But seeing how he was already dead, the quest couldn't be handed in, right? Turned out that Mr. Compson had risen from the dead, and it gave us a chance to burn the ledger right in front of him.
Damn you!
As he cried the night away, I sat in his tent, thinking about how best to drain the life from him. But the sorrowful moans served as a lullaby to our psychopathic protagonist, coupled with the impossible reflections of the dancing flames inside the tent. I slept like a baby. When I woke up, Compson was gone. At least, that's how it could have ended. I am wearing a leather face mask after all. It was time for a change of scenery, mainly because there was an incident outside town where yet again I had right of way, but selfish civilians refused to budge, and the poor chap who was knocked over had a friend who was understandably upset, but drawing a firearm on a deputy in the sheriff's department would not be tolerated, and two upstanding lawmen came to my aid. I opted to let them do their jobs and tend to the bloodthirsty maniac. Unfortunately, while their weapons were poised to send him to the afterlife, it appeared that these deputies had also taken a vow of no firearms and left me to my fate. While the tomahawk could easily deal with my assailant, I was curious to know if grave danger would rouse my colleagues to battle, so decided to see how they felt about body-blocking bullets that were meant for me. Apparently, these were true pacifists committed to the cause, so I protected the sanctity of the no-fire rule and put an end to the situation. Just as I uttered the words, "You're welcome, friend," perhaps he got a close-up of my mask and saw that it was made of skin, perhaps it was something else, but either way, this lawman decided that I was now an enemy of the state, but he still refused to shoot me. That is, until I jumped on Dennis, and suddenly it was on like Donkey Kong. However, I wasn't interested in fighting another officer of the peace, but Dennis insisted I saw this through to the end. The change in scenery led me to Saint-Denis, but my horse insists I call it Saint Denis. I was eager to help the folks of this city, but it wasn't long before I got in trouble for disturbing the peace. You call it pushing, I call it bringing people together. Then, when I was riding down the street, there was a road traffic collision. They used to be called road traffic accidents, but accident implies there's no one to blame, and this was all my fault, apparently. Getting sheltered inside the bar wasn't an option either, as the locals were united in the court of public opinion, sentencing me to death. Getting mauled by gentlemen in top hats was embarrassing and not an option. Okay, it was time to accept a different reality, and I ran like a coward. Once it all died down, my mission to help the townsfolk was back on, and who better to help than when a devout follower of the Almighty asked for coin before delivering word that yet another scumbag slaver was in town, and worse than that, I'd given that merchant money earlier when buying up all the throwables. Word had it that this guy was storing immigrants in the basement, and the Lord's justice was going to be delivered on this day.
Hi there, mister. Got a few paintings over there. Something for the wife, maybe?
Where are they?
Ooh.
People you're hiding. I know they're here, don't lie to me. Where are they?
There's a door behind the bookcase there.
It took all my strength not to bury the tomahawk into his skull, but eventually I remembered the teachings of the Bible and took the more measured approach. The passage about, who among us can dwell in the devouring fire, that always warmed my heart. But as I went downstairs to free the prisoners, it occurred to me that the fire devours wood a lot faster than we may have time to escape, and it was every man for themselves, and I made for the exit. But no matter what, these people were free now, and my job here was done. Fortunately, it all worked out, and the monk offered me the money I donated to his bowl, which of course I declined and told him to give it to our new friends who might be in need of treatment for second-degree burns. The day belonged to the people of this great country. My journey to maximum mustache was almost complete, and I slept well, knowing that I'd always be there to witness the weird bugs in this game and protect the innocent from the monsters that dwelled in the proverbial swamp.